I'm going to try and give you a little bit of a recap of what we're dealing with right now, which was a extremely serious crash that happened on the Pennsylvania Turnpike. That crash took place at approximately 3:40 in the morning. There was a passenger bus that was traveling out of New Jersey, and it was on its way to Cincinnati. That passenger bus had several different people that were on that bus. The majority of those people are people from different countries, and the majority of them don't have English as part of their language. As they were traveling on that bus, it was headed on a downhill grade, and the bus was unable to negotiate a corner. That bus went up an embankment, rolled over, and then was subsequently struck by two tractor trailers. Another tractor trailer came and collided with those two tractor trailers, and there was another passenger car that was also involved in this crash. So as you could try to understand, it was a kind of a chain reaction type crash. We have 5 people that did not survive the crash. We have several people that were transported to area hospitals. We believe it's around 60 total people that were involved altogether, and it appears that all of the other people that were taken to hospitals, none of them right now have what we would consider a life-threatening injuries. 2 of them have been dubbed what we would consider critical by talking to the medical staff at both of these facilities. Outside of that, it's really difficult to have a lot of information. We don't even have identities of some of the people because of the severity of the crash and how entangled the vehicles are. We're still out there working hard to try and get IDs on these individuals that have passed away, and obviously it's going to be it's just a lot going on when it comes to trying to identify them and then contact their loved ones. So that's kind of where we're at. I know it's early on in our investigation. I know you probably have a lot of questions. Unfortunately, I'm probably not going to be able to answer most of them. So if you have a couple questions you want to try and shoot at me, I'd be more than happy to do the best I can.
Some early information from the company in another city indicated New York to Columbus, but your understanding now is New Jersey to Cincinnati?
Yeah, from what I understand, it was Rockaway, New Jersey to Cincinnati was the destination, and the travel bus is Z&D Tours, and Z&D Tours is what I was told. That's the information I've been given. That's the tour bus, and that's the destinations that it was leaving from and headed to. Z&D, yes. So that's about the best information I give you on the tour bus. The 3 tractor trailers, unfortunately, they were carrying packages. I can tell you that. We do have a hazmat team out there. I can't really give you any other information about those tractor trailers that were traveling, on that highway. I can tell you that we've had a collaborative effort from all of the local emergency management teams and the Pennsylvania Turnpike. They've been great to work with to try and deal with the traffic, because that's one of the things we're concerned about, obviously. It's still heading off the holiday season. We still have a lot of people that are traveling. So we've set up detours and we've tried to do things to accommodate. We have the Red Cross at the hospital working with these different patients that are able to be released, because obviously, with them being from out of the country, a lot of them are going to have difficulty when it comes to their luggage and their passports and things of that nature. So we are working with the Red Cross. They are actually at the scene of the hospitals, working with the different problems that come into play when it comes to finding housing, reconnecting loved ones, making sure that people are the ones that have to have a hospital stay. We're able to accommodate the other people that are with them, that were traveling with them.
Is there information yet on nations of origin, and if they were going to or coming from some common event?
Yeah, so I don't have information specifically about why or where they were traveling to, if there was an event of some sort. I do understand that some of them are Japanese speaking and some of them are Spanish speaking. So those were the 2 predominant languages. Now, I don't want to be ignorant or try and pinpoint a specific country and be incorrect in that regard. We are concerned about making sure that while they're going through this traumatic, tragic event, that we're doing everything we can as law enforcement officials to make sure that it can be as possibly as comforting as it can be, knowing that we're doing everything we can to make sure that while they're in our country and they were involved in this horrific incident, that we're able to be compassionate and providing the things that they're going to need outside of just medical treatment.
Talk about the challenge of trying to deal with that language barrier within the cultural barrier when trying to piece this together, and also make
Yeah. So that's a great question. There obviously are a lot of hurdles that we have to work through as a law enforcement agency. One of the great things about the state police is we do have systems in place where we have people that could help with translations and things like that, which we obviously are calling all our resources. Our county has a lot of resources that are available to try and bridge the gap, so to speak, when it comes to having the dialogue and having these conversations. We've been working really well with the hospital. We've had a long-standing relationship with the Excella Hospital and Forbes, which is where predominantly the majority of the patients have been taken. So we've been working really closely with them to make sure that we're able to provide all of the necessary things to try and make them feel as best we can, considering this horrific event that they had to go through. And the other problem we have to also worry about is trying to make sure that we're able to keep moving traffic and making sure that everybody else in the community is able to continue to try to understand how horrific of an incident that we had to overcome right now as a group. So we're working together with all the agencies, and I think eventually we're going to be able to help them get what they need. You have a follow-up? I feel pretty confident that we know which fatalities the vehicles were in. Unfortunately, because we haven't been able to do any type of next of kin information, I'm not going to be able to tell you which that. I feel pretty good about knowing which vehicles the people passed away in.
Steve, what was the weather conditions at that time? Were you guys aware of the roads?
Sure. So the description that we were taught as we talked to some of the people at the scene is that there was a change. The one thing about traveling through Pennsylvania is that we have change in weather. And it could be just because of our mountains, our hills, just the way that our elevation changes. And when you're traveling into this particular region, we were told that by some of the people that were driving that the weather did start to change. There was some precipitation that was coming down, and I'm sure that could have played a factor, but we're so early in our investigation right now that it's hard to try and pinpoint anything specific. We haven't even been able to get to some of the people, unfortunately, that are at the scene. That's kind of where we stand right now. So to try and pinpoint an exact cause of who did what, I feel like we'll be able to get to that answer, and I'm sure that's the question a lot of people have. That's probably just not something that's going to happen for probably several weeks, if not months.
Now, that bus, does it have a black box per se?
Okay, so that's another great question when they talk about the vehicles. And being a former accident reconstructionist, I can tell you that our guys are at the scene. What they'll do is they'll be able to quarantine any type of, if there are black boxes or things of that nature, and then they'll try and work with the manufacturer of the bus or the vehicle and try and determine what information that has. But also, you also have to follow it up with physical evidence. You just can't rely on a mechanical device to just tell you this is exactly what was happening. So we will do both types of investigations when it comes to the internal investigations of the vehicles. We have what's called, like we call the mix-hap, but basically they are people that are specialized in gathering information off commercial vehicles, and so they'll do an analysis of all of the commercial vehicles when it comes to whether the brakes are working, whether the tires have the right tread depth, all the different things that would go into a commercial vehicle inspection. They will do full inspections on all those vehicles on top of any interior analytical stuff that we might do when it comes to working with one of the companies that manufactured the vehicle, if that made sense in a layman's terms.
We understand that a number of those injured were under 18, at least one was a child taken who were transferred to Children's Hospital. Do you have any sort of reading as to how many of those involved in this were children and age?
Yeah, so the age range I was given where there definitely were some children. I was told as young as 7 and as old as heading into their 60s. To get an actual pinpoint, I wouldn't feel confident to give you a demographic breakdown to say X amount were children, X amount were adults, X amount were senior citizens. I don't feel confident enough to say that. We cared most about injuries and deaths and severity of injuries and the possibility of anybody else dying. So those were our major concerns, and I'm sure as we progress through this incident, we'll be able to give you a better breakdown of specific ages and ranges and females and passenger and where they were seated, if anybody had seatbelts. So I'll be able to give you a lot more of information about that as our investigation progresses. Yeah, sure. So, one of the things that people do ask about a lot of times is timelines and when we can get these things taken care of. I could tell you that because of the description that was given to me. I haven't even, I'm leaving, actually going to leave here and go to the scene. The vehicles are so entangled, and it's such a mess when it comes to how badly these vehicles, we were talking about commercial vehicles striking something. So when you talk about a crash like that, you know, it's the mass of the vehicle, right? And then you take the speed, and you're going to get a collision, obviously, that is more severe than a passenger car or a motorcycle traveling at that. So when you talk about those types of collisions, and the fact that we have fatalities, it's something that we are going to take our time with when it comes to making sure that we gather every single piece of information, every single piece of evidence at these crash scenes. So it's very important that we do that. So to give you a timeline, I mean, I would think if I had to grid this out that sometime this evening, there's a chance that we're able to try and free up the roadway, but I wouldn't even pin myself down to saying that that's the case. I mean, that's kind of the goal, I guess, if you wanted to say, if we had to have a goal.
Understanding that the scene has to be preserved while the reconstruction is underway, we understand there were some people who were treated and released. We've actually heard some inquiries from people who were apparently treated and released about when they may be able to get their belongings.
Sure.
On the trucks. Any indication on that?
Yeah, so, and that's one of the things we're actually going to be working, the National Traffic Safety Board is on their way out here. They're going to help us with an independent investigation that they're going to do, and we're going to work together with them in an effort to try and, when we feel comfortable that we have it, because a couple things. One, there's evidence that we have to gather, and then two, we understand there's belongings to people, and they're going to need some of these belongings probably to get out of the country, to eventually move around the country. We're going to work with them to see if we can do what we can to expedite the process, so that once everyone has enough of what they would consider evidence and enough information, that we could release all of their luggage, all of their passports, all the things that we know they're going to need. And in the meantime, we're going to work with the Red Cross to make sure that we have all of the accommodations for them, and we're able to make them as comfortable as they possibly can while they're staying in this Mount Pleasant, Westmoreland County area. So with that being said, I think that's about all I'm not going to be able to answer right now. So I appreciate your time. Thanks for your patience, and I'll get back to you with an update, probably most likely this evening. Yeah, we're going to be right around the 60 number. Yeah, in total, right? It's going to be right around that 60 number. And I hate to be pinpointed to an exact number, but we have 5 fatalities. It might be slightly more than 60 total, but it's going to be right around that number. All right? So thank you for your time. I appreciate it, and I'll do the best I can. I'll probably update you through Twitter when it comes to the decedents and who they are. I can't think of a reason why I'd have to have another press conference right now, unless there's some traumatic event that changes when it comes to something that's completely unknown to us, or something that would be completely unusual. All right, so if you follow the Twitter account, I feel like I'll probably be using the PSP through the Turnpike, but if not, I'll also share it with the one that I have when it comes to the Troop A Twitter account. I can't see a reason for one unless there's something that's unusual that's happened, or if we need help from the community maybe, because we can't find housing or things of that nature. Outside of that, I feel pretty confident that we have all the systems in place to take care of the people. We have an outreach, a great outpouring of support, and the Red Cross has jumped right in, and so I feel confident that we'll be able to help them. And for some reason we can't help them and I need some assistance from the public, I'll definitely reach out, because one thing about Westmoreland County and southwestern PA, they're some of the most hospitable, kindest people on the planet. So I'm sure that if we can't find what we need, I'm sure the people in our community will be more than happy to help. So thanks for your time. I appreciate it. I think the Turnpike might have a couple things to add. They've been great to work with during this crisis that we're dealing with. So I appreciate it. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your patience. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Sorry, just got to go a little lower. I'm Craig Shuey. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for the Pennsylvania Turnpike Commission. On behalf of our commissioners and all of our employees, I want to say that our hearts go out to everybody here and around the world that's been affected by this crash. I just want to touch on a few operational issues for the commission. The roadway is currently closed in both directions from New Stanton to Breezewood. Traffic that wants to go eastbound, east of Donegal, can enter the roadway and continue east, but westbound traffic is being diverted off at Breezewood, and this will continue until the cleanup has been completed. As the trooper indicated, it's a very extensive crash, so a lot of work has to be done in order to move that traffic or get the roadway reconditioned and ready to handle traffic again. We'll provide updates through Twitter and through our Traffic Operations Center in terms of roadway information. Yes.
The trooper had indicated about changing weather conditions.
Yes.
One of your representatives had said earlier about treatment
Yep.
of the road surface. How frequently or how recently had road crews been treating that area, if you know?
So they've been treating the roadway from about 9 a.m. or 9 p.m. on in a cycle that probably put them through there every hour at least. So they were cycling through, dropping salt and cinder as necessary, and treating that entire section.
Do you guys have cameras anywhere in that area that you would be able to?
No.
Can you give us some idea of the scope of the cleanup that's going on? How many companies?
Yeah, so there are literally dozens of folks from a variety of different agencies working on this. Local fire and EMS crews are on the scene now. A hazardous material company is working on cleaning up the diesel fuel spilled and other hazardous materials that exist at the scene. The local towing company is getting ready to begin separating the vehicles and moving the vehicles out of the way. Turnpike maintenance forces and state police are engaged in a variety of activities that involving the investigation, traffic control and other things, as well as getting the road surface ready to be reopened. Right. The problem with closing the turnpike and dumping traffic into different areas is that because of the heavy commercial traffic in this space, the local communities can't usually handle it very well, meaning that it creates significant traffic issues in their area. So generally speaking, when we have a crash in this vicinity, it creates what we call our Plan X, which is a closure of the roadway. And this is our longest one, New Stanton to Breezewood. And that's simply to make sure that the traffic doesn't create problems on other roadways.
This particular spot on the road, is it one that you guys are aware of that it might get slick?
This whole area, because of the type of snow that it gets, is one of our heaviest parts of the snow belt. So the entire area is one that we treat heavier than normal because of the amount of snow that it gets.
I think this was stressed earlier, just to revisit this, because you have state police and NTSB investigation,
Yeah.
which may delay clearing away debris. Do you have any idea when things may be reopened?
Yeah, I would say eastbound will open first because it's least affected. But I would imagine that both sections of roadway will be closed for several hours yet.